edge rusher.
What is it, Danny? It's not just a defensive end that we're talking about, probably in this defense, but edge rusher as a concept is bigger than that.
Well, in this defense, though, we are talking about a defensive line, right? I assume you are not thinking that they're going to spend even more resources at linebacker after TJ Edwards and Tremaine Edmonds went about as well as it could have possibly gone last year.
I am not, but I wanted to make it clear as we talk about edge rushers to the listeners out there. In a lot of times as you're looking for lists of this stuff, they just list it as edge because it's either defensive end or outside linebacker. In the 4-3 and the Tampa 2 defense, this version of it, for sure, they want it to be somebody who can both set an edge as a defensive end and also unleash the pass rush moves. And sometimes you see them toggle back and forth between their guys.
On some of the lists that out there, but I think the distinction that we also should make here is, are we just talking about pass rush? Because there are defensive linemen that generate a pass rush who line up the vast majority of their snaps on the interior that would help tremendously, where I could see them saying, we need to upgrade a pass rush other than Montez Sweat, and it doesn't really matter where it comes from. Like, you've talked about Chris Jones being your dream.
Sure.
That's not an edge rusher.
No, correct.
He does line up sometimes at edge because he moves around, but he is a pass rushing defensive lineman.
Without a doubt. And Christian Wilkins is another out there, the Dolphin, who is expected to get a franchise.
I was going to say, that's the other thing that we have to do here.
So anyway, those are two guys on the inside, but I came into this thinking we were talking about DEs.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So I think that we should cross names off that people are going to see and ask about.
Okay.
Because like Josh Allen, for example.
Josh Allen of the Jaguars, not the Buffalo Bills quarterback.
Correct. Right. Josh Allen, Jaguars, very good season last year. He had 19 sacks, right? 90 pressures. He was incredible. Top 5 pass rusher in the NFL last
Only
year.
27 years old, 6'5", 255.
He's there. Think of him as their Jalen Johnson. Now, he was a first-round pick, but like premium position, homegrown.
Coming out of his first deal.
Having the best season of his career. They're not letting him go. He will not hit free agency. It might get contentious. He might request a trade, but he's going to get the franchise tag.
All right, can I go next? Brian Burns of Carolina.
They have rejected, reportedly, some ridiculous trade offers for him in the past, including multiple first-round picks.
26 years old.
He's not going anywhere.
6'5", 250. Crazy good suddenness, quickness, pass rush. I agree he's not going anywhere unless they decide to work out a trade for some reason.
Correct. And then the other guys that I would say for sure are not, I don't think Chris Jones is in play. And I don't think Christian Wilkins is in play. I do think that the guy on Justin Madubuike on the Ravens, I do think he's in play. It would be expensive. It's not a pure edge rusher, but it is a max effort pass rusher, runs like defensive lineman talent. I do think he's in play.
I think they're gonna probably draft another one, but they like their interior line mix. I think they like Dexter Pickens. I believe Justin Jones will be back, and we know they love Andrew Billings, who they signed to an extension. So they'll need more than that, but spending a bunch of money there or a high draft pick doesn't seem super likely.
Okay, and he's not an edge, so we can cross him off for the experiment. So that
cross him off then.
Right. So does it get back to Danielle Hunter? I
think Danielle Hunter is the top realistic target if they decided they wanted to spend legit money on a veteran edge rusher. 29 years old, 6'5", 263. He's got a really complete skill set, and he's entering his 10th season, but he's not even 30 years old yet, and has been very consistent and productive.
He is excellent. It would surprise me a bit because of the redundancy with Montez Sweat if they went that old, frankly.
I agree.
That's what would surprise me about Danielle Hunter, is that it strikes me as not pairing young and old, and in fact going older than Montez Sweat and also very expensive. It's the type of thing that you can do when you've got a quarterback on a rookie contract and you've got some premium positions locked in cheap. Like if you have receiver on rookie contract, right tackle on rookie contract, left tackle on rookie contract, and quarterback on rookie contract, you can spend big at both edge rushers and corner and linebacker, but it still seems like a very expensive allocation of resources to the defensive side of the ball.
That's an important caveat, though. Like, if they go quarterback, wide receiver at 1 and 9, and I don't know that those wide receivers are going to be there, or if they go quarterback, tight end, or whatever, then yes, you could see them needing a veteran edge rusher, maybe somebody at a shorter time horizon contract-wise than what Danielle Hunter is likely to get. And so we'll get to some of those names a little further down the list. Veterans who might fit for like a 1-year plug and play or even a 2-year plug and play, because they will have money. You know, you might have a rookie free safety that you're trusting and paying on a rookie deal, as well as the rookie quarterback, rookie wide receiver.
Yeah, I mean, listen, that hangs over all of this, right? What they do at 9 impacts the biggest free agent spend. I think that's pretty clear.
Yep.
Because if they, like you said, if they go receiver at 9, the biggest free agent spend is likely to be center or edge rusher. If they go edge rusher at 9, the biggest spend might be receiver. And there will be a future polls position where we talk about veteran free agent wide receivers in the event that they draft a tight end, a tackle, or a defensive player.
So I think Danielle Hunter, unlikely. Za'Darius Smith is another one that he's 31 years old.
Yep.
So these guys like this find it difficult to get long-term deals. They just do, unless it's staying with a team and they're working with them and they believe in the work ethic so much and they continue, and maybe you end up in Philly until you're 36 like Brandon Graham, But Za'Darius Smith, I think he might be surprised at what's out there contract-wise.
Veterans often, and that's the type of thing where like he won't sign day one of free, right? He won't sign March 13th. And today we should also note for people that are following this stuff closely, today's the first day of the franchise tag window being open. It's March 5th is when it closes. Teams often don't do it right when it opens because they don't want the negative headline out there any longer than they need to because players perceive it to be a negative headline. So, and it buys them more time to negotiate if in fact that is happening. But with the combine being next week, it's a procedural date in the NFL calendar, but expect Jalen Johnson to have the franchise tag placed on him between now and March 5th.
Yeah.
So that's coming to, and that's going to come for a lot of these guys that we're talking about. What do you think about, or where did he come in your research into this?
My hardcore research.
Bryce Huff.
Bryce Huff is really interesting because he is in his athletic prime.
And he, to me,
at just 26, 6'3", 255.
And is a pass rusher. He is a younger Yannick Ngakoue.
He's a specialist.
He is. That is what he does. He goes after the quarterback. He had a very good season. A lot of Jets fans want him back, but he's going to be on everybody's list because of his age and the feeling that he hasn't hit his ceiling yet.
His pressure rate is the best in the whole free agent class of edge rushers, and the Jets have spent a lot of money on the defensive line, so there are a lot of people who think that he is
that
indeed
he's the odd man out, so to speak.
Yeah, that
he'd be very exciting and probably pretty damn expensive. He'd be the most expensive signing of your offseason. But in your talk about adding a guy who that would be kind of like, I mean, he's younger than Montez Sweat. He's a little younger, right? He's in that DJ Moore range. Like you would feel like you would have his prime 3 or 4 years, which again lines up with cheap offensive premium position. So I do think that the Bears will be in on Bryce Huff. He's high on my list.
That'd be really interesting. If that is your prime free agent spend, is Bryce Huff, or, I mean, if it does end up being something like that, then you're looking at rookies kind of all over the place. And And something's going to fall through the cracks. Maybe it's that second tight end, that upgrade tight end.
You can't upgrade every position.
You can't do it everywhere. So maybe that's going to be a veteran on a short prove-it deal. And we'll get to some of those tight ends if we need to. Guys like Hunter Henry are out there, you know? Somebody who can block and catch, and we'll be looking for a deal, and you won't have to break the bank for him.
Do you think there's any chance they go after Chase Young?
No, I think they know. I think they chose the right Washington defensive end in terms of makeup. They got the right one. Chase Young was a beast in the Super Bowl, but he was not a beast for lots of Niners games before that and lots of Washington games. And then there's been injuries, and they've got somebody in Montez who can scout him pretty directly.
Right. I agree. The Super Bowl was impressive. The first half of that game in particular, he made a couple of plays. He had the sack. He had the forced intentional grounding. Like he was a disruptive player. He is a freak of nature athletically, but questionable motor. And if he's not going to have a motivation playing in playoff games in a contract year, when is he ever going to be out there?
Man, it's crazy. You look at some of these lifer defensive ends, these lifer pass rushers. Like Kyle Van Noy had a really good year last year in San Diego on a $1.4 million deal. On a 1-year, $1.4 million deal.
Yeah.
Like Bud Dupree is at 31, and he's mostly outside linebacker, but he can play defensive end. He did for Atlanta, and he signed a cheap deal last year. Jadeveon Clowney played for $2.5 million last year in Baltimore. So it's like an addition like that, I feel like it's probably going to happen, even if they draft a young edge, like, add somebody who can add to your pass rush possibilities.
Well, that to me, like safety, it is a 1-year deal. Veterans, you can age well. Like, I think it's very in play that they say there isn't an edge rusher in the draft this year, and they Band-Aid it again.
Right. Not
with Danielle Hunter, because that's multiple years and more expensive, but with a name that you would know and get excited about. What about Jadeveon Clowney?
Yeah.
To me, that one makes a lot of sense also. Not the primary edge rusher. Disappointing. Had a very good year, though, with the Ravens, and is the type of guy that, when healthy, is disruptive, especially if he isn't counted on to be the number one guy, right? Like, played well with the Ravens. Ton of defensive talent.
Played well with Myles Garrett.
Right. Played well with Myles Garrett. Not the number one guy. So I think Clowney makes sense. A texter says Jonathan Greenard from the Texans. I think that makes sense.
Jonathan Greenard is 27, 6'3", 263, very quick off the ball. But the size is a better fit as kind of an outside linebacker than he is a defensive end.
He's put his hand in the ground, though. Like, he'll do that, too. I think he can do both. Leonard Floyd is a name you're going to hear.
Man.
I know.
Been there.
Time is a flat circle. I know.
That.
I know. But I think at the end of the day, it's going to come down to, is Ryan Poles likely to spend big at the same position he already spent big on?
I think no.
Right? I think no also. So I think it's more likely that you're going to get a 1-year deal on a veteran paired with a draft pick than spending big money on this spot. You've got an expensive linebacker. You're going to have an expensive corner. You've got an expensive edge rusher. I think he's more likely to put financial resources elsewhere on the team, like center. You know what I mean? He doesn't have an expensive offensive line.
I think Band-Aiding it is going to be very probable the more we talk about it. I mean, unless he falls in love with somebody at 9 and there's no wide receivers there.
Listen, if you can get the best defensive player in the draft at 9, that's always going to be good value if you think that player is great. And there's a real chance that 8 offensive players go in the first 8 picks. That's very in play based on a lot of these mock drafts.
I should say, in a year where Dwight Freeney just got elected to the Hall of Fame, along with the 3 Bears, that I love short pass rushers. I've always loved short pass rushers, very, very famously, whether it's Dwight Freeney or his partner Robert Mathis or Elvis Doomerville, like dudes.
Wow, I did not think we were going to hear a Doomerville reference. Okay,
dudes who get lower.
Were you a Derek Thomas guy?
Well, yeah, but he was like poor man's LT.
He got
crazy speed.
Well, he got down low to the ground.
Yeah, absolutely,
crazy bend.
Right. But like, I think when you're short and you're a battering ram like that, and you get low, I'm a big fan of that profile sometimes. So who's the shortest of these pass rushers? I'll find a short one.
The shortest
free agent edge rusher.
They're
all too big.
It's a weird way. They're all too big?
Yeah, they're all like 6'5".
Generally speaking, an
6'3".
asset.
I'm aware.
I got to say, I'd be pretty I think that it is very in play that 3-tech is still an ad, though, more so than edge rusher. Like, Dexter was good, but was he good enough to actually answer the issue when that is Matt Eberflus's thing? When he says DeForest Buckner's the favorite player he's ever coached, that the 3 technique's the engine that drives it, that they tried to get Larry Ogunjobi, fails the physical, that they liked Jalen Carter, but they didn't like the character stuff.
Hey, Ryan, come on, man. Come on, let's spend on that.
Yeah. Get me Christian Wilkins.
I'll be badgering for it.
Get me Christian Wilkins. Like if the Dolphins don't franchise tag him. And then he could say, okay, we'll be cheaper at edge rusher, but they're going to be expensive there, because it's still asking a lot of Gervon Dexter to be that good from that draft position this fast.
And they've lined up Dexter all over the place. And Dexter has lined up outside when he was in Florida. He was kind of learning some 3 technique stuff and found it towards the end. Yeah, I mean, it depends how much they believe in him and want to give him time. He didn't surpass Justin Jones for snaps until very late in the season.
Yeah, it's a risk. So I'll say I'd be very excited with Bryce Huff, but it'll be expensive, and I think it's more likely that you get a Jadeveon Clowney type on a 1-year deal like Yannick Ngakoue. Those will be the 2 names that I'll attach to this conversation.
Okay, that's fair. I'll throw in one more of the veteran names. I mentioned him, Kyle Van Noy, older, but man, he was real
still
good.
Productive.
Still very, very productive. But I think the Clowney thing makes a ton of sense. I'll be shocked if it's Danielle Hunter.